fucking booty base. Today, I'm gonna be showing you 12 different I'm just joking. 12 different deadlift variations that you can try out. Guys, now if you're watching this video at the time that it comes out, then you will know that the world is starting to come out of all of these COVID-19 lockdowns. The gyms are starting to reopen, so I'm sure that you are very excited to get back into the gym and get into all of these bigger barbell movements that are going to be getting you really strong, jacked, and building your booty like crazy, like deadlifts. So here are the 12 awesome variations that we can have. We're going to be starting off with movements that are a little more traditional and a little bit more barbell focused, and then coming into some cool funky variations that you might not have tried a little bit later on in the video. And just quickly, I'm not going to go into too much depth about your technique or your setup within this video. I'm just going to show you the variations, and if you're interested in looking on your technique to set up your deadlifts, then you can watch this video here, which I released just the other day. So anyway, let's smash it, fang it, bang it. Number one, we are going to be kicking off with our regular old conventional deadlifts. Now, this is generally going to be the most preferred deadlift for a lot of people, and we're going to be stepping up, approaching the bar with around about our feet at shoulder width, hinging those hips back down, and then grabbing on, getting nice and tight, and then pushing that ground away, pulling through, snapping the hips, before reversing back down, and then descending to the ground. Now, we want to really focus on driving the legs here first, then pull through, squeeze the glutes. On the descent, hips back until we get the bar to the knees, and then we drop down, keeping that bar really close to our body the entire time. You'll notice my hips are pretty high with this variation, and it's a very hip-dominant movement, while we're also making sure we're really staying tight all through our back and musculature to make sure we're staying strong, stable, and rigid throughout the lift. All right, next up we have my personal favorite deadlift, and that is the sumo deadlift. Now, a lot of people ask me whether a conventional or a sumo is better or worse, and the reality is there is really no better or worse. It's a matter of figuring out what works best for you. Personally, I fucking hate conventional deadlifts, even though they're the first one on the lift and they are a traditional deadlift. What we do with the sumo is, instead of having our feet together, we take our feet out nice and wide, and we come into more of an externally rotated position with our hips. So we drive those knees out really far, and we sit our hips back, but then we create the movement a little bit more with our legs and our leg drive to begin. So from here, everything's the same, stay nice and tight, boom, push, snap the hips through, back, down. It allows us to use a little bit more legs, a little bit more quads, and also keeps our body in a little bit more of an upright position, which places less strain on the lower back, in comparison to a conventional deadlift where the hips are a little bit higher, the hamstrings are a little bit more loaded, as well as the lower back. Boosh, boosh. So I recommend playing around with both, but if you're cool like me, then do sumos. All right, number three, and I know I said sumo deadlifts were my favorite, however, this is definitely a hot contender when we're coming in for a very often forgotten lift, which I get my clients doing a lot of the time, which is a snatch grip deadlift. Now, I love snatch grip deadlifts because they hit so many muscles within our posterior chain and target so many muscles in the body. So we set up exactly how we would for our conventional deadlift. However, we're going to be widening our grip, and what that does is places an additional demand all through our lats and upper back to stay rigid and stay strong because of the increased demand of having our hands out wide. So what I like to do is get into position. I personally also like to come out and then drive my knees out a little bit more because I've got the room to externally rotate just a little more so I can get those glutes active at the start of the rep. Now, grabbing your hands into a comfortable position, and you don't have to go all the way out wide like this, like an Olympic lifter would. Just take them out, maybe an additional hand space or two, and from here, really focus on pulling that bar into you, getting those lats really tight, drive up, pull through, finish by squeezing the glutes, keeping the back tight, but you don't have to overextend and squeeze the back at the top. Just keep those shoulder blades back, keep that back rigid, and then descend and with a little bit of a slower eccentric. 1, 2, 3, and down. Typically, I like doing 3 seconds before the bar goes to the knee. So, elbows in, tight, push, snap, 1, 2, 3, just like that. For number 4, we're coming in for a barbell Romanian deadlift. Now, ordinarily, you would start with the barbell up in a rack, but for demonstration's sake, I'm just gonna pick the barbell up and start from here. So, starting up top, we stay really tight, pull those shoulder blades back and make sure our lats are switched on. And from here, we want to descend the bar down, but we're not thinking about lowering the bar. We're thinking about pushing our hips back, and loading those hamstrings up as much as we possibly can. Taking them to a maximal stretch, and for me, it's about there before I start to lose that tension and that tightness through my back. So the goal isn't to put the bar down towards the ground, it's to push the hips back, load that massive stretch on the hamstrings and glutes, pull through, snap, and squeeze the glutes. Now, as you can descend all the way down until the barbell touches the ground, but that's okay, but typically you only just want to tap and then pull all the way through, so you're keeping more tension on the hamstrings. Now, all deadlifts are awesome, but these ones you will probably feel a lot more in those hamstrings and glutes because you are keeping the tension on them for so long. And again, I also like keeping the eccentric a little bit slower with these, just like the snatch grip deadlifts as well. But a word of warning, for both the snatch grip and the RDLs, it is a little bit challenging on the grip strength, so it might be worth using some straps to keep your grip strong. Okay, now for number 5, we're staying to this barbell, but we're gonna get a little bit funky here with a semi-single leg deadlift. And we're doing what's called a B stance deadlift. Now, a B stance is a fantastic way to shift almost all of our load onto one leg, so it is the one that's doing the work. However, we still maintain our stability throughout the lift, whereas if we were to lift our leg off the ground, we're gonna lose that stability and be far weaker. So, approaching the bar like we would for our conventional, I like stepping just a little bit off center so we're a little bit more aligned with the working leg. I'll be demonstrating with the right leg here. So, if I'm working my right leg, I'm gonna bring my left toe so it's in line with the heel. From there, I'm gonna slightly turn my toe out to the side just so I can get my knee out of the way a little bit, and that's just a personal preference of mine. From there, we repeat everything exactly the same as we would for our conventional deadlift. However, we want to be making sure we're shifting about 70 to 80% of our weight onto our right leg and only using this foot here as a bit of a kickstand to assist us with our rep and assist us with our stability, but not actually drive any weight into the ground. So, back, grab, and then up, squeeze, back, down, up, squeeze, back, down. And you can play around with where you like to put your foot. Some people like to go a little further back. Some people like to go a little bit wider. Just find what works for you, but make sure that you're still distributing majority of your weight into the working leg. And also make sure that you perform the same amount of reps on each leg. Variation number 6 is just that. It's a variation of, generally speaking, either a conventional or a sumo deadlift, and we perform it exactly the same. However, we're going to be doing it in a touch and go fashion. So what that means is we're not going to come down and completely stop on the ground and reset our movement like we would be if we were trying to shift heavy loads and trying to stop, reset, and get strong from pulling off the ground. What we can do instead is come back into position, up, boom, lift up like a jack unit, come down, and then tap the ground, and then before going straight into our next rep. Personally, I like doing these for higher reps when I'm trying to just bust out a really tough set towards the end of my sets, and I like doing back down sets with a touch and go set just to get that higher rep range, just to be able to lift that a little bit more weight and just to feel a little bit more jacked. However, when you're doing these, remember it's touch and go. Just kiss the ground. Don't come down and bouncing off the ground looking like a fucking idiot. For number 7, we're not necessarily doing a deadlift, however, something very, very similar in a rack pull. Now, what we do with a rack pull is we set up inside a squat rack and ideally having the pins at a point where the bar is going to be either just below the knee or just above the knee. However, you'll probably get a little bit more gains by going just below the knee. Now, what we're doing here is strengthening that end range hip extension of the deadlift. So, if you find that you have trouble locking out your deadlift or you're getting stuck here and pulling your hips through at the end of the deadlift, it's a really fantastic, a rack pull is a really fantastic way to strengthen that last little part of the deadlift. And you'll typically be able to lift a lot more weight on a rack pull because you don't have to pull the bar all the way off the ground. You're only pulling from wherever you have the pin height for your actual setup. And also another one that I actually quite like and really, really enjoy is a snatch grip rack pull. Now this is just my preference. I do these when I'm training my back and it feels awesome to really get tight, up, squeeze, and then slowly lower down as slow as possible. So this is 7.5 snatch grip rack pull. Whew, enjoy that. Now, with those rack pulls, we're strengthening our end range hip extension and the end of our deadlift. However, if you want to get stronger at pulling off the ground and increase the range of motion, you can go for a deficit deadlift. Now, I personally don't really like these all that much, but coming into our whichever setup you decide to go for, sumo or conventional, hips back, coming down, and all we're going to do is elevate ourselves a couple of inches off the ground. So now we have to reach down and pull from a deeper range of motion than what we ordinarily would, which will transfer over to helping you to get stronger when you're pulling that initial weight off the ground. So you'll be faster, stronger, more powerful. All right, now it's time for us to ditch that barbell. We can get that bad boy out of here because there are so many other awesome tools we can use with our deadlift. So the back end of this video, we're going to be coming into those. Now, you can do a variety of different deadlifts with our dumbbells. We can do single leg, we can do B-stands, we can do a whole bunch of different ones. However, my personal favorite is dumbbell constant tension Romanian deadlifts. So we're going to pick those dumbbells up, starting at the top of the movement, and we're going to go down as deep as we can, really focusing on pushing the hips back, placing that massive stretch on the hammies and glutes, coming all the way up, but we're not going to squeeze through and lock out. We're going to keep that tension on the hamstrings the entire time, keeping the reps relatively fast as well. Stretch, squeeze, but don't lock out the hips. Now this creates a lot of tension, a really big stretch, and a massive burn all through the back of the legs with those hammies and glutes, and keeps the tension on the muscle the entire time. They're awesome for higher rep ranges and really getting an awesome mind-muscle connection and feeling all through those hammies and glutes work really hard. Alrighty now, our next variation, we are going to be needing a little bit of a machinery here. However, most gyms typically will have access to a trap bar machine just like this. If not, then you can always use an actual trap bar itself. However, I'm going to be demonstrating on here because I really love trap bar Romanian deadlifts. So, what we do is come on down, hinging back, grabbing on, up, and the machine will typically put you to wherever you need to be. So if you're stepping too far back and you step up and you feel like, whoa, I'm getting thrown forward, that's okay. It's the machine doing its job, keeping you where you should be. From here, we go through and we get a really big stretch on those hamstrings again, coming down, maximal stretch, pull through and squeeze. Now these work well for a variety of different reasons and a variety of different variations. You can go regular Romanian deadlifts, single leg Romanian deadlifts, B-stands Romanian deadlifts, and you can also turn around and try it the other way. Some people prefer going this way. Personally, I much prefer the other way, but experiment with both and see what you enjoy. However, machines are a really great way to hit heavier movements or hit more constant tension movements without being quite as taxing as our big barbells. So, give machines a fucking go. Alright guys, now there are a whole heap of single leg deadlifts that I could have put in this top 12. However, one of my favorites is coming through for our landmine variation, and there's a few different ways in which we can do these. Now, a word of warning, it is a little bit tricky grabbing on to the end of this big thick barbell like so. So if you have an attachment or something like this to use, then that's all well and good, but you probably don't, so, wow, get out of here, mate. Now, we're coming through, stepping back, bracing that core, standing all the way up, and now from here, hinging back, down, up, and through. Now, this is a single leg movement. However, we also have another point of contact on the ground with the actual landmine. So, even though it is single leg, we're getting that additional little bit of stability to make sure that we can stand up and wedge ourselves across into the ground that way. Now, we want to be applying and loading our muscles with as much tension as we can in as stable of a position as we can. And if we can utilize that extra stability and still load that weight to be a little bit heavier, that's one of the many reasons why landmines are so great. Also, if it is a little bit tricky, then just come into a B stance. That works fine. Or you can play around by going this way as well. I'll go this leg, like so, and hit your angle like that. Play around with your variations. See what feels good. You can even go double leg. Zhoosh, zhoosh. So, have some fun with it, but landmine deadlifts are fucking jacked. And last but definitely not least is our low cable RDLs. Now, this is a movement that all of my clients absolutely love. Rather, they AbsoGlutely love it because it does a fantastic job at activating the crap out of those glutes. Now, ordinarily, a deadlift does get a lot of glute activation and works the hamstrings and glutes a lot. However, the glutes aren't often working hard in end range hip extension when you're standing up. When you're holding a barbell or a dumbbell or anything that's working against gravity, you're doing a vertically loaded movement. So, as you come all the way up, squeeze your glutes at the end of a rep. That's a good thing because you want to lock out the movement. However, that weight is pulling you down in this direction and there's no active tension trying to push your hips back to make you feel like you need to squeeze your glutes forward. Enter the single leg low cable RDL. Now, you can do this as a double leg movement. I personally prefer it single leg. Now, we're grabbing onto our cable, and now we have more of a horizontal loading. So, I'm going to be coming through, hinging all the way back from those hips, snapping those hips through, squeezing, and now my glutes have to work really hard in this short and contracted position, activated as crazy and like hell. I really want to focus on finishing the movement just like I would be finishing a hip thrust. Tucking through, squeezing, before stretching back, loading those hamstrings, pulling through, and then squeezing hard with the glutes. Really emphasizing that extra squeeze, driving the knee through, and getting that hips under, oosh, for that posterior pelvic tilt. Now, if you do have access to something like this, we love these here because we can hold on to something and brace, which again, gives you more stability so you can use more load. If not, these feel awesome as a B stance variation instead. And if it gets too hard and you're getting too strong and too jacked, you can always just hold on with both hands or perform it as a double leg movement. But single leg feels better. So, whew, get those hammies roasted and get those glutes feeling absolutely juicy. So, there you have it guys, 12 different deadlift variations you can try that you can get when you get back into the gym that I just spent an hour doing, and now I've got to go and train legs, and guess what? I'm fucking deadlifting. So, I put all this work in for you guys. Now, I want you to put in a little bit of work for me. And comment down in the comment section below, letting me know what you want to see on my next video, and also asking any questions that you may have, because I'm planning on starting to do some Q&A videos on here as well. So, you know what they say. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and ladies and gentlemen, you know what they say, YouTube, skin a little bit of